Echo a little bit. That's what you said, right?
We're going to do Yirmiyahu.
Yirmiyahu, it's interesting. We're not doing really Yirmiyahu because Yirmiyahu is the one that wrote Echo. And Rashi brings immediately at the beginning of Echo that it's Yirmiyahu that wrote it. There is 100 years, more than 100 years between Yeshayahu and Yirmiyahu. And the three Shabbos between Shiva Asar B'Tammuz and Tisha B'Av are Yirmiyahu and Yeshayahu. That's called the Shalosh de Pur Anuta. So we'll have the opportunity to speak a lot about the things that Yirmiyahu went through. He's going to be meramezit in Echo. But I'm going straight to Echo for all kinds of reasons. And let's begin. You have it at the end of most Chumashim, in the end of Dvorim, before Kohelet. As I told you already, it was done not because of the text of Dvarim, but because of technical reasons that people didn't have enough books in those days. And the Shabbos preceding Tisha B'Av is always the first parsha in Shul of Dvarim, and the Shabbos following Tisha B'Av is always Va'et Hanan. Va'et Hanan is a consolation, like in the Haftorah, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. All the 7 Haftarot after Tisha B'Av are all from Yeshayahu, and all after chapter 40, when Yeshayahu is really giving us a lot of hope and courage. The ones before are Yirmiyahu as well, and Yeshayahu, the last one, Chazon. The Shabbos preceding Tisha B'Av is called Shabbat Chazon, based on the Haftarah, which begins with the words Chazon Yeshayahu ben Amos, which is the first perek of Yeshayahu. So if I begin immediately Echo, which was written by Yirmiyahu, it's going to be very interesting. And you might know a little bit the beginning, but very soon we're getting to all kinds of fascinating psukim. One of the reasons why the Shabbat preceding, one of the reasons preceding Tisha B'Av is Parashat Dvarim, is because the first perek, Pasuk Yud Bet, is a pasuk where Moshe Rabbeinu says Eicha, and because it says Eicha, it reminds us of Eicha. And it's so interesting that the word Eicha, which means how and means almost nothing, has such an importance. We'll see in a moment. Then we have, and you can stop me and ask questions, and I'll stop and everything. There is something very, very else which is very interesting. The Haftarah as well of the first perek of Yeshayahu, not Yirmiyahu, which is 100 years before he has a nevuah about the Beit HaMikdash that will be destroyed, and it's as well Eicha. There is a pasuk in that Haftarah, which is as well beginning with Eicha, which we don't have afterwards, okay? Very, very interesting. It's not only Yeshayahu that had a nevuah, a feeling, an intuition, I don't know how you want to call it, that the same Beit HaMikdash which is built will as well be destroyed, but even Shlomo HaMelech will prepare himself for that beautiful Beit HaMikdash that he built, that one day, because we are only human beings and we are going to sin, that will be destroyed. It's not forever. He had a certain sense that there will be 3 Beit HaMikdash and only the third one won't be destroyed. And some say that where he hid the Aron and all kinds of things that are not anymore in the second Beit HaMikdash, they are hidden in places which we can't find today. But it seems that he did, so it's very, very interesting. Not only this, in an introduction to Kohelet from the Netziv, it says beautiful things, and Shlomo HaMelech, the introduction of Shir HaShirim, not Kohelet, slicha. Shir HaShirim was written as well, that when we don't have anymore the Beit HaMikdash, should be, how to say, consoled by beautiful texts that replace it. So let's begin immediately. And I love this introduction, and I'm sure you heard it as well. But the Midrash is very rich. We have Kohelet Rabbah. We have the Yalkut Shimoni. Yalkut means gathering of all kinds of Midrashim from all kinds of places, Zuta, etc., etc. And we have Gmarot. I don't know about you. We, from the time I'm married, when the children were small, the night of Tisha B'Av, we would sit on the floor, and my husband would tell the children he would skip the two terrible ones, but we would learn all the Gemarot speaking about the Churban. Eicha Yashva Badad. How did she sit solitary? Ha'ir Rabati Am. The city is so full of people. By the way, from next week on, you can have a text if you want. I usually don't go into text immediately, but here, yes. Hayta ke'almana. She was like a widow. Rabati Bagoyim. The one that had been a pluperfect. You don't have in Hebrew. It's past as well, and you have to make it into a pluperfect. Not Hayta ke'almana. She was like a widow. Rabati Bagoyim, the one that had been, it's even before, it had been so big among the nations. Sarati Bamedinot, it had been like a princess amongst the different Medinot, Aitalamas, and now it had to pay a tribute. If you say today that Israel is totally independent, with all the Ga'ava and everything, but if America doesn't permit, or if they cut the weapons and everything, we are in a big strait. So at the time of Nebuchadnezzar, Yirmiyahu was at the time of the first Beit HaMikdash, but he did live the beginning of the Tkufa of the second Beit HaMikdash, at least the wish to rebuild and everything. The Galut Bavel. He went to Galut Bavel, and we'll speak about all these things as well about him and certain parts. So Eicha Yashva Badad, and the question is, it's one of the questions, why is it called Megillat Eicha and not Megillat Kina? Why not Kinot? In all the other languages, no other language calls it the scroll of how. It's called the Lamentations in all the languages. What this word Eicha, which is so important, especially that grammatically it should be Ech, how. I don't know if you ever saw in museums. I think it's in Amsterdam, but it has been sent to all kinds of countries. There is a very, very famous painting of Rembrandt, who was very inspired by Jews, and he has a lot of Jews on his pictures if one looks well. In those days, it was like a high period for the Jews. And there is a Yirmiyahu. He doesn't have anything on his head. He's a long beard, but he doesn't have anything on his head. And he's mourning, sitting and mourning, while on the far end you see the Churban. It's very, very interesting, because like Rembrandt has as well on the Akedah, and it's very goyish with everything. It's biblical, but it's very, very goyish. All kinds of things that are, like, for example, for the Akedah, it says that Avraham Avinu was so careful to look at what he's doing, even though it was so difficult. He didn't bandage his eyes and do it without thinking or without seeing, because it's so difficult to do. It was against his whole nature, the Akedah Sitzrak. But it's not, in the picture, it's the opposite, as if he doesn't look what he's doing. So we have all kinds of details that Torah Sheba'al Peh is explaining us, which of course he had no shaykhs to. So that's one thing. And why isn't it written Ech Yashva Badad? There is a type of allegory. It's even before the Midrash. It's in the pasuk itself, that it's as if Yerushalayim, and therefore the whole of Am Yisrael, of Eretz Israel, but Yerushalayim is like a lady, a beautiful lady, that is totally in isolation and crying about her husband having disappeared, which of course, like in Shir HaShirim, like in all these places, like in Yeshayahu, Perek Hey, for example, where it's like in Shir Hashirim, where the Dod is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Eicha Yashva Badal, how did she sit solitary? Here he says the city, but the Maise, it refers to a woman because she was like a widow. So a city is not like a widow, but a woman is like a widow. I'll speak about it in a moment. Therefore, I always explain, the Torah Sheba'al Peh, especially in the Agadah form, you have a whole bunch of Rabbonim, and everyone is going to say how he feels about what it means. And therefore, the head of it, Rabban Gamliel, or whoever it is, because depending on the Tkufot, he says to Rabbi Abahu, you say the introduction, we're going to comment the beginning of Echo. And Rabbi Abahu patach leMegillat Eicha. He's the first one that spoke about Megillat Eicha. Okay? And he uses, like a lot of people will use, they will say, thank you for letting me speak and everything. And he begins like at a Sheva Brochos, like at a Simcha. He begins with a Pasuk. And he'll explain the Pasuk and he'll compare the Pasuk with what he wants to say. Okay? So Rabbi Abahu patach leMegillat Eicha. That's the first introduction. Vehema ke'adam avru brit. And this is at the time of Hosea, which is earlier. They are vehema ke'adam, like a man, avru, who transgressed, and in English you can't translate it, brit, a covenant. Why? Because vehema, they are, in the plural form. Ke'adam, like one man. Avru is in the plural form, who transgressed. But in English, you say he transgressed and they transgressed. You say it the same way. And in Hebrew, no. It should be written, Vehema ke'adam. So, Vehema ke'anashim avru brit, or Vehema, Vehu ke'adam avar brit. You have to decide that if the subject is in the singular, the verb should be in the singular. If it's in the plural, it should be Vehema plural, Ke'adam singular, Avru plural, Brit singular. Okay, so we have a problem. It's in the 6th perek of Hosea, where he describes Am Yisrael. And he asks immediately a question. He brings a pasuk, and he asks the question on the pasuk. And he says, Mahu Ke'adam. Why do you say it in the singular? And on top of it, why not Ke'ish? Why not Ke'gever? Why Dafka Adam? And he answers. And he says, because we want to make a comparison, Hosea wanted to make, Hosea ben Be'eri, he wanted to make a comparison Ke'adam Arishon. And that's why whenever you have a word in Tanakh, you have to look where does this word appear the first time. And there will always be an inner connection with the very first time. You have Nachash, go back to the Nachash Akadmoni. Whatever you have, you go back to the first time and it will have a touch of the meaning of the first time. So, Vehema ke'adam avru brit, mahu ke'adam arishon. And there he says a comparison. And he says, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this appears in Midrash Rabbah, it appears in the Pticha of the Midrash altogether, it appears in the Yalkut Shimoni. It's a very famous one. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Adam Harishon Hichnasti V'Gan Eden. And I am going to skip and immediately, because we don't have a board, we are virtual, it's Chaval. If it's on the board, it's much more interesting. Adam Harishon Hichnasti V'Gan Eden. Hashem says, and Am Yisrael Hichnastim, in the plural, it's known that Adam Harishon is a microcosm and Am Yisrael is a macrocosm. So, and Bnei Israel too, I got them into a Gan Eden, which means Eretz Yisrael. Okay? But Tzivitiv, and I gave him one commandment to Adam Harishon. I learned, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you don't bring one, you don't give one. You give a lot so that if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. You have other mitzvot. Ratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu lezakot et Yisrael lefichach hirba lahem Torah u'mitzvot sheneemar. So you said the beginning of Pirkei Avot, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to give us a lot of zchuyot, so he gave us a lot of mitzvot. The pshat means many mitzvot, many zchuyot, but it's deeper. When you have a lot of mitzvot, you have a chandelier with a lot of bulbs. So if one breaks, you still have light. But if you have only one light and the light breaks, you're in the dark. So he gave us a chandelier with 613 bulbs. So we have a lot of possibilities to still get back together. And then you go to the shop and you buy a few bulbs and you do tshuva, and it's easier than only one. Adam Arishon Yechnasti Began Eden, and Am Yisrael as well, to Eretz Yisrael. But Tziviti, and I gave him one tzivui, and I gave them 613 mitzvot. The Avar al tzivui, and he transgressed it, and Am Yisrael transgressed a lot of mitzvot. And I had no choice. V'gerashtiv v'shilachtiv. And I had to send him to Galut. And Am Yisrael as well. The Galut of Adam Arishon is from Gan Eden to the normal world. The Konanti Alav, and I cried about it. I said a kina. I said a lamentation. In the same way, Am Yisrael as well. After I got them into Eretz Yisrael and they sinned, I could have killed them all together, destroyed them, begin a new nation. No, I had pity on them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes with the punishment slowly, but I sent them to Galut, which has a lot of negative, but as well some positive. They'll have to manage to rebuild their level of Gan Eden in Galut for 6,000 years. The Gerashtim, I had to send them to chase them away from Gan Eden. And as it says as well in Hosea, Mi Beiti Agar Shem, I'm sending them away, I'm chasing them. Shilachtim, like he brings all the Midrash brings all kind of psukim in Yirmiyahu, in Hosea, etc. The Konanti Alehem Echo, and I had to say kina, a lamentation, which is Eicha here. And that's why we know that Yirmiyahu said it Beruach HaKodesh legamre, and that's why Chazal put it in the Tanakh. So everything is fine, but, and I'm sure you know, we skipped one thing when he says that HaKodesh Konen was Mekonen. He said a lamentation by Bnei Israel. We know it's Echo, but by Adam Arishon, what is it? It's Eicha, because when Hashem asks Adam Arishon, who is hiding, where are you? He says Eicha. The word Eicha does not exist. It exists twice in Tanakh, and with the vowels, it's Eicha, but it should be Ech or Efo. Efo ata. Hashem wants to know where is Adam Arishon. What do you mean? Hashem knows where is Adam Arishon, even if he hides under the table. But says Rashi, lehikanes imo bedvarim, to begin a conversation and not to shock him. It's like HaKadosh Baruch Hu by Avraham Avinu. It says the same thing. Avraham, lech lecha me'artzecha mimolata. He goes slowly, not to put him in a state of shock that he should say yes without thinking. So when you meet somebody which you haven't seen a long time and you want to ask a favor, you first say, how do you do? And you'll begin. Even Shmona Esrei, the Amidah, you begin with praises. You don't immediately give me this, give me this, give me this. And in the same way, Hashem begins with him Eicha. But again, the word Eicha is nishtahi, nishtaher. It's the hey is extra to connect it with the Eicha of Yirmiyahu. Eicha of Yirmiyahu is Oy Ve'Zmir, and Eicha is where are you? But it's really Oy Ve'Zmir. So what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu saying to Adam Arishon who hid? Hashem knows where he is. So Rashi said to leikanes imod bedvarim, to begin the conversation, not to shock him, but lemaise he's asking him a question. The intelligent person thinks about all the possibilities, all the consequences of his actions. And Hashem is saying to Adam, Eicha, where were you? I gave a shear, a beautiful shear, and I saw that you're not with me. So in the end, I say, hello, where are you? And it puts you back on earth. You were thinking of something else, the chofesh that you're going to do, or the tzoros that we heard, or the terrible story with a woman that saved all her kids but got burned. Unbelievable thing, shocking thing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving us such shocking thing because where are you? Because very often we're just not there. We don't hear. So he has to give us well things and terrible things to wake us up, like the father who's waking his child at first with a kiss, then with a slap, and then with a bed full of nails. And it's for his good to wake him up from his coma. Okay? So this is where are you? Okay? And and the where are you is not geographical, it's not physical. Where are you in this world? From here we know that when we have a tzom, the main thing is not the fasting. The main thing is to make a cheshbon hanefesh. We have a day when you eat a lot, the only thing you want to do afterwards is poof, is schlafen. You want to sleep because it's hard for the body to digest and to think and to everything. In a certain sense, of course, when we fast, we have a headache and we are thirsty. Nachon, at the same time, we're less into gashmias. Have you ever tried to be on a diet and gone to a party where there was a beautiful buffet and everybody is jumping to the buffet and hoping that there still will be those little eclairs and those marvelous fruit and everything, and you decided you're not going to eat there? You have a feeling of freedom. You feel like you're somebody else. You're not busy thinking, will it remain, will I have, and you push and everything. You're a free man. There is something about breaking up the stopping the gashmiut, which gives you a possibility to make a cheshbon hanefesh. So in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the simplest book of halacha, but in other books as well, the main thing on a day of tzom is to think. And Eicha, Ayeka is think. So we had those 3 weeks which we are going to have to think, where are we? Why don't we think of the consequences? The Satan, using his best tool, the tool called Dimayon, imagination, is always telling you that the pleasure of the sin or of the not perfect is going to be so great that it's worthwhile. You'll do tshuva tomorrow. You'll do better another day. You push away. The only way to fight him is to do the opposite. You use his weapons and you say, you know what, I'll eat the other day. I'll push away. The Stipler, when he was in the cold of Siberia, and in Poland, or not in Siberia, in Poland, I don't remember, perhaps in Siberia. And the one before, there was only one coat for all of them, minus 40 degrees Celsius and 50 degrees Celsius. And you had to guard the place. And it was Shabbos. And the guy before, instead of giving it the very fur coat in his hand, put it on the tree. And halachically, you're not allowed to take it from a tree, to take something which is put on a tree. You're not allowed to take it out. The Stipler knew that he would not succeed. He would freeze. So what did he do? He did 5 minutes and another 5 minutes and another 5 minutes. You don't swear things. Nowadays, we don't swear because we don't have enough of the yirat hachet of swearing. But what we do is we push away the Satan. Another time I'll come with you. He says you'll do the mitzvah another time. You tell him another time I'll be with you. And it works marvelously. And then you feel good. So if you use that time for the good things, Eicha Yashva Badad. And Badad is the same idea as a fast. Badad is you're on your own. It's so sad. But when you're on your own, you have no choice but to. I always tell the story of an introduction to most of the books of Rav Avram Twersky, Zichrono Livrocha, where at the beginning of his stage of becoming a psychiatrist, they told him to go into a bath, he says the story, into a bath for 25 minutes without a phone, without music, without everything. Today, you see in the street, nobody is without anything. People are petrified. People are at the phone. I just now came back from Bnei Brak, and an hour ago I came back, and it was a cacophony. Everybody was at the phone the whole hour. And Chas v'Sholom, some sounded like they're gaining time, they're doing things, but others just schmoozing, not to be alone, not to be badad. And he was told that he has to think about what he wants for 25 minutes as an exercise. And after 5 minutes, he said, I am finished. I did it. You know, I'm a very good student. I'm much better. And he went out. And they told him, Mister, it's 5 minutes. It's not 25 minutes. The exercise is 25 minutes. So he said, yeah, I understood what they want. They wanted I should think. So I thought I'm a very fast person. He was young. And he refused to continue. And they told him, you can't pass the test. You have to go back. And he went, and after 10 minutes, etc., it took him a few hours to be able to be on his own. There was no noise. There was nothing in a shower, in a bath, I don't know exactly, for 25 minutes. You have to learn it, to be not to be afraid of your shadow, to be badad, to be with yourself. at the time of the corona, a lot of people cracked up because and we had Akadosh Baruch Hu was good. We had a phone, we had different things. We had we had films. We could see things. We had shiurim. Imagine having less and less and less and being badad, bidud. It was called. It's exactly this badad. Okay, so this is introduction to Eicha. Okay, very very interesting. Now, if you look at the prakim, so Eicha Yashva Badad, I explained the cities that had been so special, and you know that this city is be'emet special. You go to the kotel and you see people from all types and from all countries. And there is a midrash that says that every country wants to have an embassy in Yerushalayim. And somewhere it's true. Shchunat, how does it call? Germany? It's not Shchuna, it's called, I forgot what. What?
Moshav
Germany and Moshava Yevani, and so many Christian things. Give me a break. You have Bethlehem. You want Eretz Yisrael? Go to Bethlehem, where Oto Ish Keilu Nolad, and who knows what in a barn, and Mecca. Go to Mecca. Go to no, they go either to Mecca. You're not a human being. You don't go to Gan Eden if you haven't been once in your life to Mecca. If you're a tzaddik, you go every year to Mecca. Sometimes when I'm in an airport, I see the people, dressed like in olden times, jalabi, etc., on their way to Mecca. One has to go. But it's not written anywhere. You have to go to Jerusalem, and they all want Jerusalem. The tiny little thing, it's written already here. Everybody wanted something in Eretz Yisrael. Everybody wanted something in Yerushalayim, and it had been such a kavod. And now, now you don't want to go to Yerushalayim. You're now, the Misrad Tayarut is half dead because people are afraid, because want to go instead to Cyprus. It's not far, but you buy houses in Cyprus and perhaps in Dubai. Wait a minute, what's going on here? Okay, that's the Onesh, that's the Galut. Hayta ke'almana, yeah? And the ke'almana is going to be very interesting because this is the whole description of the HaKadosh Baruch Hu as a hanhaga with us of Hester Panim. Ke'alman means velo, Rashi says velo almana mamash. We were like a widow. Sometimes it's worse to be like a widow than to be a widow. Because if you're a widow, so people take care of you, and you get magia lach kesef, you get money and all this, but you're like a widow. When we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu is after us, like it says, metzitz min hacharakim in Shir Hashirim, he's looking from he's moving the curtain and looking, but he makes as if he's far away from us, so that we should try to realize that we cannot manage on our own. That's called Hester Panim. It always reminds me 10 years ago when there was this terrible, terrible story in Harnof with the shul of Rav Rubin, and four korbanot men, some of them who saved a lot of people before being killed, who were killed, and one of them on top of it was wounded to death, but he did survive a year. And all those four ones, one was so nice with them, and one gave them to speak to places, which is therapeutic. It helps. And this one was going every week to see, because he had been put in a place they didn't think to put him not far from where she was. She had 10 kids at home. Every week she had to go and visit him, and they were cutting him in pieces. They made an operation of the eyes. They took off his eye because it was too bad, and then they did this and they did that. But there was no hope. There is always hope, Nissim, but there was no hope. But she wasn't a widow. And by the time he died, the big whatever they made out of it had gone. So she was ke almana for a full year. Ke almana. In a certain sense, it's worse. The Hester Panim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is very hard. And this brings us to a midrash, which is so beautiful, about a king that is in the middle of writing a get to the queen, and she says, "Give me already the get." Okay, so separating and give money for the children because you owe money for the children. And he says, you're not divorced, but I perhaps want to marry somebody else, Avodah Zarah, I don't know what. No, I'm in the middle of writing the get. I didn't give it to you yet. Okay, so then if we're not divorced, so help me do things as long as you didn't finish the get. No, I'm in the middle of writing a get. This in-between situation of Hester Panim is so difficult. And to be in the crematorium and to say, I feel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you need a madrega, you need a high madrega. This is hayta ke almana, velo almana mamash. Rashi brings a bit, he brings it differently, more soft. כאישה שהלך בעלה למדינות הים, אבל בת כי דעתו לחזור אליה. He went away for who knows how long. Sometimes I have a guy in a shidduch, and he tells me, the first time he says very interesting, the second time he says, you know what, it's not bad, but I want to try other shidduchim. So tell them that I take a break. Now, if you take a break after 8 gishot, because you're not sure and you need a week of a break, you say, in a week I'll give an answer. But if you say, after 2 times, which is ridiculous, you don't know anything yet, you say, I need a break, but I don't know for how long. And meanwhile, you see, I want to see if I have other chances. And if not, don't tell them. Just I should keep her, in case I don't find something better. You don't know what he gets from me. You don't know what he gets from me. I put him back in place because he doesn't realize, of course not. But he didn't say I'm coming back in 2 months. He didn't say anything. Sometimes you wait for years. And then you see those beautiful stories. The story of Rav Dessler was first separated for 2 years. And then his wife ran away with her daughter to Australia. And 6 years they were not together. And you have the story of Rav Chaikim, the Talmid of the Chofetz Chaim, ex-Lebain in France, they got engaged. And then he was taken by the German. He was a nest in prison, so he didn't go through the war, and good chance he would have been killed. And 7 years, and it took sometimes 2 months to get a letter, and a lot of letters didn't get. And after a while, he told her, you can break it. I agree. I understand you. You are now in South America. She ran away. And it took 7 years till he was not in prison anymore. And then another year till she managed to come back. And later on, they built a beautiful family. We don't have that type of patience nowadays. These were great people. Yeah, well, what do we ask ourselves? Am I doing Ratzon Hashem? If every morning we get up and at night we say, how many things did I do Ratzon Hashem and not just Ratzoni? And you begin thinking all the things you didn't do Ratzon Hashem. So that's called Cheshbon HaNefesh. Don't worry, Rav Yerucham says, first think of the good things you did. Positive thinking. Don't kill yourself. At the same time, hayta ke almana. Okay? So this is it. Now, the first Rashi immediately says, Yirmiyahu katav sefer kinot. He doesn't call it Eicha. He calls it kinot. Hu ha-megillah asher saraf Yehoyakim al ha'esh asher al ha'ach. He came to Yehoyakim, the last 3 kings, Yehoyakim, Yehoyachin, and Tzidkiyahu. Was taken to Galut in chain after they killed his children. It should be the last thing he saw. Then they poked his eyes, and Yirmiyahu ran away to Chutz La'aretz, and his student ran after him, Baruch ben Neriah, because if the master is not there, Eretz Yisrael beli Torah, zek guf beli neshama. So he wanted to be with his master, and he had Ruach HaKodesh, and he wrote a Megillah. He brought it to Yehoyakim. Yehoyakim was surrounded by false prophets. And the false prophet says, what we hear every day. It's very cute, and people think, oh, this is a positive person. What does he say? He says, Yeh tov, Yeh tov. I go into a taxi, and I will begin a little bit of Musar, and then he says, Geveret, al tefachadi, hakol yeh beseder, Yeh tov. בתשעה באב אני לא אהיה פה, אני אהיה ביוון, אני אהיה בסלובניה, אני אהיה פה, בשם, בהמון חופש. Or the woman that told me, I told you already, she was in Chutz La'aretz as well, and she wanted to learn by me, but she said, when is Rosh Hashanah? You just taught me about Rosh Hashanah. So I said, it's such a date. oh, we already took tickets for Greece, but don't worry, I took honey with me. That's how much she knows about Rosh Hashanah. I told it to you already. I have her in front of my eyes. Okay, so Yoakim is very angry because Yirmiyahu is frightening the people, and that's exactly what he wants. As long as you frighten them and they do something about it, there is a chance. But if you say, yeah, top, some people, primitive people, they think that bitachon means even though I do nothing, it's going to be my bank account is empty, but I still put the card inside the machine, and I have a money. There will come out money, right? It's empty, my bank account, but there will come out money. If I try to do mitzvahs, to do something, to do tshuva, it puts money in the bank. Then when I'll take out some money, there will be some money slowly but surely. But if I do nothing, that's not called emunah. That's not called emunah. So he gave it to Yoakim, and in Perek Lamed Vav of Yirmiyahu, it tells the whole story of Yoakim said, enough is enough. Catch this guy. We don't want to see him anymore. He took the Megillah, which is round and paper, and threw it in the fire without reading it. And Yirmiyahu had to rewrite it. And I always say, I haven't seen elaboration of Meforshim on it, but we got the second Luchot, we got the second Eicha. There are a lot of things we get the second. We're not on the level of the first, we get on the second. We have a world which Hashem created with Elokim, and it wouldn't work, so we have an Hashem edit to it. The Aseret HaDibrot, the second one, the second tablets are on a lower level. Aval lo nora, that's what we understand. Better, you have those people that are so upset and choose to be heard when they refused in a school. I'm not saying that what's going on is very beautiful, but Rav Chaim Kanievsky used to say, where you are in the end is where Hashem plans that you should be, and it's going to be the best for you. So of course it's hard to. You're allowed to fight for it. But why does everybody want to be in the highest when their kids are not on that level? They might be better in art, they might be better ladies at home, they might be better balabustas. So they won't have 5 yochidot in Mathematica. If you give them 5 yochidot in Mathematica, they'll have 0. You can't do this. So nothing to cry about having received the second luchot, because we can deal with them. We proved that we can't deal with the first ones. Okay, of course it's said, but once it's said, try your best for the second one. There is plenty to do. This, and then Rashi will begin telling us how it works. And if you have a sefer, it's so nice. If you have next week you look, check what I say. You have 5 prakim, and the 4 prakim go according to the alphabet. Yeah, Eicha yashva badad, bachot tifke balayla, galta Yehuda meoni. You have Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, etc., etc. And then you'll have some Perek, some Prakim, where you'll have one change, which I'll speak about, the Pei and the Ayin, we'll talk about it. And you have something else as well, which is that the third Perek will have 66 Psukim. We all know that the Hebrew alphabet, and the English, French, German alphabet has 26 letters. The Hebrew alphabet, if you don't count the Sofiot, the Chaf that has a different letter at the end, the Pei and the Tzadik that have different the Kaf, etc., etc., the Mem and the Nun, if you don't count them because it's the same letter just at the end of the word, you have 22 letters. It's a very important number which we'll go back to, and 66 is 3 times 22, so you have 3 psukim with Aleph, 3 psukim with Bet, 3 psukim with Gimel, like Ashrei, just Ashrei, you don't have the Nun, but you'll have it after. Somech Hashem lechol hanoflim, you have the Nun after the Samach, in the Samach. So because Nun refers to falling, and Hashem is picking us up before we fall totally. It's easier than after you have fallen totally. That's why you have to, many halachot because of it, you have to take off the weight of an animal before he falls totally, because once he falls totally, it's harder to pick him up. And many, and that's why when we say Baruch Ato Hashem in so many times, we say Baruch Ata, and by Hashem we pick ourselves up. If you want to do it long, the bowing, you say Baruch Ata a long time. But when you say Hashem, you pick yourself up, because Somech Hashem lechol hanoflim doesn't say Ele shenaflu, but who are in the middle of falling, noflim. Okay, So you have 66 letters. You have 3 times the alphabet. Aleph, 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 Bet, 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 Gimel, Gimel, Gimel. And the question is why? And there are many, many answers. But the answer of Rabbi Yochanan, which I like so much, it's a Gemara in Sanhedrin. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the letters before the world. And after he created the letters, he wrote the Torah with those letters that have such a strong, strong, strong meaning and values. Sefer HaYetzirah is based on the letters of the alphabet, and so many things, and so mmany perushim, not just on the numerical value of the letters, but on the shape of the letters. Yeah, like for example, in Chanukah we learn the Yavan, Yud, Vav, Nun. It's letters that don't have a content, right? Because it's points. It's small, medium, large. Right? Yud, Vav, Nun, but it's not. You have other letters that are much more full inside, etc. So the shape of the letters, the Bet of Bereshit begins with a wall. What's before we cannot understand. Whether Hashem did create other worlds and destroy them. If you're into Kabbalah, you can build on it. I'm not into Kabbalah, but it begins from there, and from there you go on, and not what's before. Okay, were there Martians in Mars before 6,000 years ago? All kinds of such things you don't. So Rabbi Yochanan says, once we have a Megillah that is built on the letters of the alphabet, and you have the expression from A to Z. I'm going to tell you the stories that happened to me yesterday, from A to Z, meaning with all the details, A to Z, right? Aleph till Taf. Can be Aleph at Taf. In Hebrew, you say me Aleph at Taf. So that's one idea. But Rabbi Yochanan asks in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Mipnei ma laku Yisrael ve'Aleph Bet. Bnei Israel were hit with Aleph Bet. It doesn't mean that I took wooden letters and I threw it at our face. No, it means that the description of the TORAH of the time of Eicha are written in a form of Aleph Bet. And the answer is Mipnei she'avru al haTorah shenitna be'Aleph Bet. Because the way the Torah is given, it's like the mode d'emploi. If you follow it, everything will be fine. Exactly like it says in Shema. If you listen to me, great. If you don't listen to me, don't cry afterwards. So it's the letters of the alphabet are the way Hashem created a world that should be a healthy world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu bara et ha'adam yashar, v'hem bikshu tachbulot rabim. We made a mess out. It's never Hashem that made a mess out of it. He gave us a Satan, gave us a choice, free choice, because if not, what's the point? To just be computers, to just be animals? He has other things to do than to create animals. He did not create the world for the giraffe. He didn't create the world for the kangaroo. He created the world for man, who can gain his rewards, who has a free choice. The mashal of the 2 children, they get pocket money, and one of them is going to buy a present for the parents, and the other one is buying sweets every day. If it would not be like that, the parent, if you wouldn't have a free choice, the parent would say, you bought me a present with the money I gave you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says this about everything. He gives us a strength, he gives us hands and feet and everything, and with this we do mitzvot, todah rabbah. There is such a midrash. He's giving us, we are making tzitzis out of the wool, which he gave us the sheep. So what's the point? But we could as well not put on tzitzis. And like that with everything. The child that does not buy a present for the parents thought only of himself. And the child that, whatever the reasons why he does it. And the second one that waits and buys a present for the parents, the very fact that there are 2 different ones shows that he had free choice. So then he deserves a reward. So this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did. Mipnei she'avru al haTorah shenitna be'Aleph Bet. That's to remind us that the Torah was given with an order that if we follow the order, the machine will never break. Clear? So this is just the beginning, which is more a review, because I'm sure that some of you have heard a lot of this, but doesn't matter. Next time we continue, and I think it's good that you should have a text. It's very easy to get, and it's not very long, and I hope that we'll do quite a few psukim. Okay? Is it
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so am I
Thank
going
you.